Welcome everyone, it's Sherold Barr, and today I'm thrilled to have my guest Jeannette Maw, who's the Good Vibe Coach. And I looked on my calendar today and I was telling Jeannette earlier, I'm just stoked to have her back because I have the most fun talking with her and just get the best positive dose of positivity. So welcome Jeannette. I'm going to share a little bit more about you to everybody.
Well, thanks for inviting me to come play with you again, Sherold. I'm always happy to play with you.
Yeah, and I had to talk her into doing a video interview because you do mostly audio.
Sherold said video, and so you get the blame for video, but I'm the one who picked Friday morning. When I woke up this morning, I was like, whose idea was Friday morning?
I don't know how we got it, but we did. And it kind of made my Friday. That's how I looked at it. So,
I didn't want to put this off any further. When you said, let's play, and this was one of our open slots, I was like, yes.
Yeah, let's play. And that's really what we're going to do today. We're going to have a fun conversation about manifesting and conscious creation. So let me tell you a little bit about Jeannette. I met Jeannette many years ago. She's a master life coach with Martha Beck, and she's been known as the Good Vibe Coach for, I guess I've known you, 10 years, maybe 9 years, 8 years, something like that. And as I said, she's one of my favorite people to interview. I've interviewed you before, and I think my class at some point I had you speak to Smart Women Make Money. Yeah, they loved it. You're one of my favorite interviews, or their favorite interviews in that series. Jeannette, what I like about her is you call what you're manifesting is conscious creation, which I totally agree with, because if we're conscious, we can make it happen. And so you call it conscious creation. And Jeannette, I love your little bio because she says that she lays awake at night conjuring up ways to help people better understand and practice creating reality. And who doesn't love that? Really, who doesn't want to play with something like that? And mastering the art of manifesting is what you live and breathe. For years, you said that you struggled. You struggled with job changes, relationship breakups, financial upsets, health problems, and little did you know that you were making life much harder than it needed to be. And after you built a successful corporate career as a financial planner, you soon lived a rut of autopilot, and you weren't happy doing that. And you knew there was another way to do it. You said one day a homeless guy invited you to hit the road with him, and the invite appealed. And that was your cue to launch a life overhaul. I love that. Thank you, you say, to the homeless guy for the wake-up call. Luckily, you didn't have a tragic wake-up call in any respect, because a lot of people do, and it's kind of a smackdown.
Yep, it's going to happen sooner or later. The only question is how soon are you going to answer the call for change?
Totally. So might as well do it before you get that wake-up call. Soon after that, you said you discovered the law of attraction, and you were on fire to share the secret of the fourth transformation, and you completely redesigned your whole life, creating Good Vibe Coaching. You've been living your dream for as long as I've known you. The other thing I absolutely love about you is you're an animal nut. And I am too. I was going to ask you, how many are living at your house right now?
I don't ever answer that question. I have 11 of my own, 8 cats, 3 dogs, and 2 fosters right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, I'm off the record. No one quote me on that. That's totally legal.
Because you have
compliance.
Some of your stories are hilarious about how you've manifested homes for even some of the foster animals. I mean, so you're a great person because you foster these animals and get them taken out to, great homes after that.
I do it because I love them. I don't do it because I do it because I love it. I just love animals. I always have. When I was little, I had like 300 stuffed animals. That's why you spent every babysitting dollar I ever earned, it went on stuffed animals. I had over 300. Wow. As a kid.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you followed what you loved from that point on, which is your essential self. And I always tell John, if I were really into manifesting, I'd manifest a small ranch somewhere where I could have lots of rescue animals and stuff, but not in this lifetime.
That's what I'm doing right now. That's my next creation. I'm in process on it right now.
Oh, gosh. Hey, let me know when you make that happen. That's pretty cool. So I wanted to talk about manifesting today, and I want to talk about, I love the thought of conscious creations. If you were to tell people who aren't, really clued into manifesting and, law of attraction. I mean, that got a lot of rap back then, but let's talk about it in today's terms.
Sure.
What would be 5, 6 steps, whatever methods, many methods, what steps would you take or say there are in manifesting?
The first thing I want to say is that we're all doing it already. We just aren't all doing it consciously, but we are all creating our reality. Many are doing it by default rather than by engaging the system the way it was meant to be worked.
Yeah.
But the way I learned it, I'm a student of Abraham Hicks, and the way they explain it is 3 easy steps. And there's really only one that we have to pay any attention to. So you don't even have to listen to the 3 steps, but the first one is we have some sort of desire, right? We experience some sort of contrast, a don't want. And that inspires us to want something different. That's the first step. Abraham describes it in that moment. It exists. It's created. It's already a thing.
The desire, is that the desire?
Yeah.
And talk about the contrast before you move off that, because I often tell people, at least you're seeing what you don't want. That's going to help you know what you want.
It's a big step, and a lot of people live their whole lives in the don't want. I did for years.
Totally.
I didn't know there was any other way. I thought this is what life was. Grin and bear it. No. But you know what? This is really interesting, Sherold, because if you think about multiple worlds theory, about how infinite realities, time is an illusion. Not only does everything that could happen already happening, it's all happening now.
Yes.
Hey, science tells us that. At least the leading edge physicists have signed off on that version of it. But in Abraham's lingo, the way they talk about it is, as soon as you have a desire, your desire for it creates it on a vibrational level. So that's the very first step, is just to live life, experience contrast, have new desires. And we're doing that automatically. That's not something we have to be conscious about. It's already happening. The second step is the one I already described. Abraham says universe creates it. So it exists. But the third step, and this is the only one we have to pay any attention to, and that's to allow that reality to be our experience. And we do that by becoming the vibrational match to that reality. And that's where all the work of conscious creation is. Because the other steps, they're so automatic, or they're not our job, that the only thing we have to pay any attention to is managing our vibrations so that we can experience that preferred reality rather than staying stuck in the contrast for however long. Seriously, some people do it their entire lives.
Wow. Yes, it's true. Allowing it, and I love this too, because, in studying Kundalini Yoga, I mean, all of these things I'm studying or reading about, I mean, the whole thing is that our senses are what block us from, it's the illusion of seeing these other planes, these other whatever. And I've also heard Mira Kelly, who does past life regression. She has a book out, and she interviewed Wayne Dyer before he passed. It was a year or so before. But she talks about, in doing past life regressions, people talk about that the lives are kind of mixed. It's an interesting thing. It's a really cool thing when you think about it. And Einstein talked about it. I mean, the whole illusion. So I think you're right. It's where we get goofed up is the energetic piece, and thinking that it has to be hard.
Well, and so much of that has to do with our focus. In fact, I love the way Bashar talks about it, because he has a way of talking about how we're billions of times in every second, which is impossible to conceive. That's how quickly we're shifting between all these infinite realities. The thing is, most of us aren't shifting very much, so we don't experience much change. But if we learn how to change our focus, we can make bigger shifts between, those realities, so that we can experience and we can live what we want. And you're right, the way most of us are trained to go about getting what we want is to take action, to work hard for it, to pay your dues. And if you're lucky, maybe it'll work for you, like it's a thing that may or may not happen. It's not really in your control. The best you can do is work your butt off for it. Right. That's how most of us are trained, right?
Yes, and I think what that speaks to is our beliefs, and our beliefs create our reality. Yeah. And if we're unconscious about what we believe, it's going to drive our behavior. So the only way to notice if it's working is what we got. If you don't have enough money, if your job sucks. Okay,
if you're working too hard for what you want. I mean, so many of us, we're in our efforts to get where we want to be, we're exhausting ourselves. We're overwhelmed. We're not having a good time. And when that's the vibration that we practice, that's what it's going to be, even when we get where we thought it was going to be better.
Totally.
Because I've lived that one the hard way. I remember when I was working the job that I hated so much, and I was like, why do you make yourself do this? And the answer was for the money. And I thought, well, then get rid of your bills, because if you didn't need the money, I'd quit this job and I'd do something else that I liked better. Yeah. And so my mission became, this is before I knew anything about law of attraction or conscious creation, but my mission became quit this job. So that meant pay off your bills.
Right.
So I made triple house payments for 5 years.
Wow.
To pay off the house and all my other debt. I didn't have a ton of other debt, but it was the mortgage payment that was the big one.
Yes.
Triple house payments for 5 years, working a job that I was really done with.
Wow.
On the day that I made that last payment, thinking, okay, I'm creating financial freedom for myself. This is it. Like, once I get there, then I could live how I could take this job and shove it. Guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to go make Slurpees at 7-Eleven. And I made that last house payment, and there was no elation. There was no jubilance. There was no joy. I was the same zombie I'd been practicing being for 5 years, because it's the vibration I'd practiced so well. Yeah. We fall for this all the time, and we think it's the when-then syndrome. I'll feel better when, or once X, Y, or Z happens, then I'll feel better. The external things are not in charge of how we feel. We are. That's an inside job. It sounds trite, but it's totally true that it's on us how we feel. And we see plenty of people who have the sorts of circumstances we think they should be happy with, and yet they aren't. Right. And I'm sure everyone has their own story about, they thought once they got married or had kids or something that once they got there, then life would be good. And it was the same life we've been practicing all along. It's a vibrational thing.
Yeah. And I just say cut out the middleman, which is waiting. Waiting. And, that's people put their life on hold, and then life goes by, and you wake up and you're worried about my life. Did I matter? Did I make a difference? Did I do what I needed to do? And I see a lot of dead people, especially a lot of men, and it's this chain to the man, the whole American dream and what it is. And the millennials, I actually was thinking about writing a little piece on that. The millennials have it right. Everybody's saying we kind of screwed them up, like narcissistically, but I know I raised Max to, you can do anything. And of course, they don't want our dream. They think it sucks. And I love that. I think it's smart. Anyway.
Smarter.
Yeah. So
I think it's a rising of consciousness,
Totally. Yeah. They're like, they've already got it. They think like, why? This isn't what I want. I want to be of value and be with people and have a good time and get where I want to go. I'm not going to work my way up. Mm-hmm. I think our beliefs back on that, like, like Dad said to me, you work hard. If you work hard, you'll be successful. That was in my computer code, and I'm working on busting that belief today, because it's so insidious when it's in there and you're not aware of it and you're subconscious. So,
and especially when everyone else is living it too, Sherold. I mean, I think that makes it even harder to unload when everyone they're doing it and preaching the same thing to us. So you got to be really committed, really deliberate about unloading that one.
Yes, you totally deliberate and do everything you can to question that belief or tap it out and be on it every day, because it isn't going to go away. I mean, it's in there. In your experience, Jeannette, what makes a good manifester? And I also want to say a caveat. Let's talk about, you've got a podcast called LOA, Law of Attraction. So it's LOA Recon, RECON. And your podcasts are great, so I want to recommend that everybody listen. But there's one of these subjects I'm going to ask you about, you actually did a podcast on. But in your experience, what makes a good manifester?
I think it starts with understanding that we have this power. You know what, even as I say that, that's not true, because there are some people who are just naturals at this, and they don't have a conscious understanding of how the system works. They just naturally work it. I do run into those people every once in a while. Usually it's one of my clients' siblings or spouses. So those people don't hire me. I tend to work with people who are very well aware of our ability to create what we want. And I think that's really where it starts, because if we don't understand that anything is possible that we are willing to imagine, then we're handicapped in what we create in life. So to give yourself a really big playground by understanding that there are no limits other than the ones we impose on ourselves, that's, I think, a really powerful first step, because those gremlins can't take hold as well as they can in a mind that believes, in fate or destiny or scarcity or just how the world works in the traditional set. So I would want to say the first thing is an awareness of who we are and what we're capable of. That's the first step, because it really opens things up when you understand. And we hear this a lot from law of attraction teachers, that if you can imagine it, you can create it. Mm-hmm. Because it's the mind that everything is coming from. It's our ability to focus, to conjure it up mentally, internally first, in order to experience it in reality. So when you let rip with that one, it gives you a big advantage. Mm-hmm. I think the other thing, another great trait of powerful manifestors is an appreciation for what is. Because that person isn't falling for the I'll feel better when X, Y, or Z unfolds. They know how to enjoy life as it is right now. And when they are doing that vibration of enjoyment, it matches other enjoyable things. So that's a really good one to be rolling with. I also like an ability to not care what other people think, because very often the opinions of others, this even messed me up a little bit in my search for a new place. My parents were like, what are you thinking? Like, I'm going to have this gigantic place. It's going to be so hard to manage. My dad says, I don't think you realize how much upkeep is required for a barn. And that weighed on me a little bit. Like, it probably held up my search process a good month or two before I realized they don't know what I desire. They don't know what I want. And even if it is hard, I won't be satisfied until I go check it out. So
exactly. Being
able to not give a rip what others think, I think that gives us a big advantage as well. And then, can we talk about lack of attachment?
Yes.
Yeah, when we need something in order to feel successful or happy or whatever it is we're shooting for, that need is like it's kryptonite to successful manifesting. Because I'm going to get whatever I vibrate. And if I'm vibrating need or attachment or gotta have it or yearning or striving has been one that I've dealt with. Yeah, that one. It's not in alignment with the enjoying, the having, the presence of what we want. So it sends a contrary signal, and that is one that's worth unloading. So if we can get to a place where we're happy with what is, and we don't need it to be any different, that it's well. And I know a lot of people listening to this already know this, because it's the stuff they don't care about too much that they're really good at manifesting. Like a good parking spot, or a phone call from a friend, right as you were thinking about them, or the things that aren't like a really big deal to them, that happens really easily. It's because you didn't care too much. So when we can get that kind of hootless, that kind of I'm fine either way, that is magic stuff.
I love it. You call it hootless. Like not give a hoot. I do agree with you. I think that one of the things I know I've experienced, we were talking about this earlier, when I manifested a couple of really phenomenal condos up at the $1 million level. And my friend walked in one day and said, look what you've manifested. And it was so big that I couldn't take that in, because it's like I didn't want to believe that I did. It was an extraordinary circumstance that we ended up getting that place. Yet when we sold it, I was so attached to a certain amount of money, having it happen in a certain amount of time. And did it happen? No. It took a year, and when I finally realized I was attached, I let go, and we had 2 offers come in, and we sold it. One helped the other offer be higher, and that's what I wanted, but I was attached. So yes, I've lived it, and you really have to let go and really not care.
And that's a tough thing to do on the stuff that matters to us so much, like a coaching practice, yes. Like good health,
yes,
like good relationships. I mean, it's easy for us to get hung up on that stuff, but so that skill of letting go, it's a big one for successful creation.
Yeah, and the other thing is you have to ask. This is the law of cause and effect. So you have to ask for what you want. Like this morning, I was getting ready for this interview, and just said out loud, hey, I want some proof, I want some signs, and I'm open to watching. I want to earn some money and have it be easy. And let's just go for it. And I have no idea, but I'm also always wheeling and dealing in my mind on this. I play with this all the time.
Girlfriend, that one's huge. The letting go of how. That is huge, huge, huge. Because so many of us, we were trained to think we got to figure it out. We got to make it happen. Right? I know. We're closing off universal or fairy magic, whatever you want to call it, when we think we're in charge and we have to figure it all out and plot it and then get ourselves there. To let go of how, to really be open to that, that's huge. You brought up another good point too, and that's our ability to receive it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people think, they say, please, I don't have, because especially I coach a lot of people on the topic of money.
Yeah.
And they'll be like,
me too.
No problem receiving money, Jeannette. Trust me. Give me a chance to prove it to you. Money is not going to be hard for me to receive. And yet, how many people do we know who are uncomfortable with certain amounts of money? Like lottery winners, what's the statistic on how many burn through it? Like
they lose it, yeah.
They don't know how to be with money. And we can even see this in our friends, maybe even in ourselves, when we see how uncomfortable someone gets with a genuine compliment. Mm-hmm. Like, they can't even receive a kind thought from another person, let alone a windfall of easy money. It challenges so many beliefs that people have about their worthiness and whether they've worked hard enough to deserve it or to have earned it. It can be tricky stuff. So receiving skills are another deal.
I see that I'm actually going to do a video blog on self-worth, especially with women, because I do a lot of money beliefs and money. I love coaching on that. And I think that it's self-worth is tied up in, too often we hear, I'm going to charge what we're worth.
Yeah.
Never utter those words out of your mouth, because you are priceless.
Right.
There's no amount of money that can be put on your head or yourself. And it's a matter of charging for the value that you are giving that person. And that's where it's at. And I think it's deserving is big. And usually what I find that I want to share with everybody, again, I think it goes, if you're having trouble manifesting, notice what you believe, because your beliefs, and I see a lot of old childhood stuff, something happened and they made it mean something, it's a defining moment, and you live those defining moments out. So if you're having trouble manifesting, notice what you believe. And work on that. That is a block to manifesting.
Because those beliefs are driving your whole reality.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's what you have today around you,
Yeah.
So very cool that you brought that up. So the biggest mistakes you mentioned then, because those are the mistakes, not being grateful, appreciation.
Thinking you have to do it yourself.
Yes. And figuring out like the how when you can just put it out there.
Another big one is... Well, I just want to emphasize the receiving again. That's actually a deal, and it's a thing a lot of people don't pay attention to. We get a lot of direction about giving. We're exceptional givers, and learning how to be a receiver, it's worth paying attention to. Another one to spotlight is, our focus on reality. Like one of the biggest mistakes I think we make is thinking it isn't already done. Okay, it is done on some level, whether you have to think of it on a vibrational level or an alternate reality or however you want to think about it. It's a done deal. All you have to do is match that energetically, and it will unfold for you in a really swift, effortless, enjoyable way. That doesn't mean that you don't take any action. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I've had plenty of personal experiences and seen it with plenty of clients where action wasn't required. Like they'd already done action in the past that allowed it, or the action that they took was something that was just so enjoyable they didn't even consider themselves working towards it. Whenever we're looking at what is and thinking, this is how it is, that focus perpetuates that reality.
Yes.
So investing some time in what you want, or what really already is on some other level, rather than just the same thing over and over and over again. I think a lot of people handicap their change by being so focused on their current reality and being able to, I have a post written called Lose Your Grip on Reality. is when I know so much that I don't have clients, or I don't have any romantic prospects, or my body's doing this, that, or the other that I don't want it to do. The more I know that, the more I perpetuate that.
Right.
So being able to distance myself from this present reality and invest more focus into what I want, what already exists on some other level, that helps facilitate that change.
And I think that's difficult for people because I like to say that 90% of the population is sleepwalking. They're in a trance. They get up every day. They're not aware of what they're thinking and what they're creating. And I strive to be in the 10% club and work with people who are interested in waking up and being conscious, because that's your whole point, conscious creators.
I love that you call it 10%, Sherold. I want to live in your world, because I probably suspect it's more like 1%.
Well, I think that they're all over the world, and out of 7 billion, maybe there's enough that are awake. And I think we're here, frankly, I think what I'm here, and you're doing too, is we're trying to wake people up.
Someone woke us up, right?
Yeah, listen, and I got banged on the head, with my brother dying. You just happened to decide that, and a homeless man, you were paying attention, and yours wasn't as painful, except staying in that painful job.
It was pain.
It was painful. Actually, I can't know that about you yet. Only you can. I also want to say that it's about noticing the stories you're saying, just to follow up on what you're saying. Notice what you're telling people about yourself. Mm-hmm. Notice what you're telling yourself about yourself. Yeah. And I think that we're here to be self-realized. So the more you can watch your motivation for what you're doing, your mode, MO, you're going to be a conscious creator, because you can then shift it. But I think that's really tough for people who aren't sure what we're talking about. And some people might be going, what the hell are they talking about? But I hope that whoever's listening gets it and just start paying attention.
Someone will. And for someone else, look, I remember there's been material that's crossed my desk that I'm like, whatever. The girl that had started this all for me, Adrienne Calabrese, How to Get Everything You Ever Wanted. I read it and I was like, what did I buy this book for? I mean, I just bought it for the title. But once I read it, I was like, she's crazy. This girl doesn't know what she's talking. I can't believe I spent my money on this. But I read it. And then I had a personal rule to practice one thing from every self-help book that I read, because I was a self-help book junkie. Yeah. And the least crazy thing I could find in this book was something called scripting, where you talk about what you want as if it's already happened. Yeah, and I was like, just going to get it over with, so I could say I did my personal rule thing. And I talked about, this is at a time when I'd been in a 3-month drought of adoptions for my dogs. We had big dogs. We had 8 big dogs in our little 850 square foot house. I know and it was bad news in a lot of ways. I'd had a little nervous breakdown in the backyard, went to bed. That's actually when I read this book. So when I finished the book, I came out and I scripted about Jeff getting adopted. Not to make it happen, just because I had the rule to do one thing, and that was the least crazy thing I could find from the book. And within 48 hours, it was like a day and a half later, not only did Jeff get adopted, there were 2 families fighting over him exactly as I described. Husband and wife, 2 kids, they have a dog, they live nearby, plenty of money.
Love that.
And I realized, whoa, that girl might not be so crazy. But there's been lots of stuff that it didn't hit me until later, like, oh, there's something to this.
Yeah, and I just want to share one thing on proof or evidence on that as well. When my son was diagnosed in 2012 at age 28 with a rare genetic disease, and it was life-threatening, and it was pretty rough. I came to the dinner table. I'm classic with index cards and pens. I always have, because I'm just a wheeler dealer all the time. And I said, if it could go perfectly, how would it go right now? What would be our perfect, for him, for us? And
I'm getting goosebumps, Sherold.
And you know what? I've kept the index card. I actually have a worksheet, and I will attach it to, down in this video. And I call it, if it could go perfectly, how would it go? And I ask my clients to do this. So every single thing on that card happened. Wow. I mean, it was like he would have his surgery here. He would go back to work here. Our condo would sell here. And I also say, be careful what you ask for. That condo selling 3 months early I almost had a nervous breakdown, because he went back to work July 30th. The condo sold July 30th, and we had a month to get out.
Oh boy.
So I'd gone through 5 months of, really supporting and being, present with him and doing my own work, the work of Byron Katie on all that stuff. And that just convinced me, and I still do it for myself. And I was just reading a client's yesterday what she wanted to have happen, because setting that intention, like you said, this proves to all of your points earlier, it's already done. It's just done on some level.
Well, and there's a difference to, like, the way we run through and I just want to say that's big magic that you created there. There is a way for a client to run through, well, if it could be perfect, it would be this, and then do it with the vibration of, but I know that can't happen. I'm only doing this because you asked me the question. Like a disbelief.
Yeah, totally.
A disallowing. Totally. And then there's a way to do it with an openness.
Yeah.
Like a possibility. Like,
yeah, that's what I was playing with. Yeah. Was right there, because... and I didn't, I was doing a lot of praying. I think all these experiences have gotten me back to, being very deeply spiritual. Not that I was a religious person. I kind of ran away from all that. It's really, that's where it's at. And, I've learned through the hard times. Yet that exercise, if you can do that, and I think it just goes into what you were saying. One last thing I want to talk about is energy. I also want you to share what you're manifesting right now in terms of your property for your, I can't help but vicariously want to know, because I'm that way too. I play a game with this all the time, with mostly with real estate, and it works.
Oh,
Yeah, I really imagine as if, what would it be like? And we literally will get in the car and drive around, because I don't have any money now for a rental, but I'm manifesting one. Because I know that some shit will happen. It's true. Yep. I play a game with this. We're selling our cabin, and we've done a novella with St. Joseph. We're going to, put him upside down. I play with all of this, and it works.
Yeah.
What are you manifesting? Just share vicariously, if you don't mind, if it's not too private.
No, I'll share how I'm going about it, because the what is helpful for people to hear is the how. So what I've been doing is I've been waking up in my new place, and I've been enjoying my new view. I've been thinking about all the animals that are out in the pasture. I've been appreciating the guy on the property who's taking care of all the animals out in the pasture.
And the barn.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm paying him or if he lives there, if he's a helpful neighbor or a boyfriend. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it might be a girl. I don't know. But I got help. And when I come down the stairs this morning, I'm coming down the stairs to my new place. Or maybe I don't have stairs in my new place. I'm in my new kitchen. I'm enjoying my new view. And through all of this, the other thing that I've been practicing is loving where I'm at, so I don't have too much attachment to my new place. So I've been giving thanks for the beauty, and this place that I'm in right now is beautiful. I actually swore for a long time I'd never leave this place. I love it so much. So that's easy for me to tap back into when I do it consciously. But I could feel myself getting angsty about getting the new place. I was like, let's take it.
Gotta let that one go. Yeah, gotta let it go, because it doesn't happen on our time frame. It's just such a pleasure. Thank you for boosting my vibration today. I love it. You are such a fun person to talk with, and people can find out more about you at thegoodvibecoach.com and check out her podcast, LOA Recon. And they're fun to listen to, and you'll get a lot out of it. And she's got books she's published, lots of stuff over at her site. So there's no shortage of what Jeannette offers. And I can't wait to hear about your property. So please just remember, when you're all done and closed, just send me a note and tell me you did it. I love it. So
thanks for inviting me to play today, Sherold. It was fun.
Thank you. And thanks so much again. And just best to you. And thanks again.